Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Today, let's talk about the EU report. The EU is a foreign body. It observed the election among other bodies, but it has now put out what it calls its final report. And in that report, it was based on the 25th of February and March 11 general elections. And the EU described the whole process as unfair. This is a position that has been categorically denied by the federal government, President Tinubu, INEC, not to mention very many citizens in the country. Okay, but still, everybody has a right to have their say. And so we'll look at that today. And we have two people here. In studio with me here is Mr. Joe Igbokwe, a special advisor to the Lagos governor. Well, former. We got to. What? Still, APC. Still.
A member.
Okay. APC Lagos chieftain. Yeah, I'll just go that way. Thank you very much, Joe, as always, for being in the house. And Mr. Ni Akishiju, journalist, writer, and political affairs analyst. Good morning to you, Ni.
It's a pleasure to. It's a privilege, not even a pleasure. It's a privilege to be with you.
We're delighted. We're delighted you could make time for us. Good morning.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me start with you. It's been so long. So let me just start with you. The EU is calling their report their final report, and back in the day, they had put out a report and had alerted that a final report would be coming, and so now we have the final report, and it's only to cast aspersions on the election in Nigeria. Give me your general views on this.
Yes, I think the report is not exactly well situated. And that is why it's generating this kind of response or backlash, if you want to put it. You don't do a report on a sensitive issues like this without first situating or contextualizing the method or the methodology or the framework upon which the report is put together. Now, when you look at that report, what you see are multiple dimensioned perspective and opinions, biases, and thoughts, of different people. The thread that runs for me is the constant mentioning of the submissions or the outlooks of the civil society organizations. So I think one is an aggregation of the thoughts of Nigeria's civil society organizations, some civil society organizations. And then, of course, when you also do an inquiry against the background of CSOs in Nigeria, you also understand that many of them are actually under the direct funding of the European Union, as it were. And my general engagement with some of them, because I also I used to be very, very active in that segment of the civil society organization, is that some of them intentionally create diversions and have some phantom challenges that are not existing in the country, but they need to submit such reports to their funding bodies or agencies so that they can continue to be sustained along that line. So my interim report before you find out the submission is that the report was not properly contextualized, was not properly situated, no methodology to it. Is a general observation of thoughts and exposures of some people. It does not speak specifically even to the issue of election day. If you read the report, of the 97 or so pages, the election day, February 25th, only had one page, committed to it. And whereas you have a general submission on the election failing or failed election on the election day, there were no specific empirical references in terms of data, that was espoused in that report, as it were.
Indeed. Well, thank you for that overview. Let me come to Joe now. Just as Nee has said, in fact, the statement put out by the presidential spokesman, Dele Alake, had said that, look, as far as they are concerned, this was a desk-bound exercise. A bunch of guys sat around a desk, collated reports. Now, they didn't go all that far, but is the interpretation I got, that this whole thing is a desk-bound exercise and that they had actually alerted about this before. But Joe, what would be your general view of this final report, as they call it?
I just look, I'm just seeing it as, it's advisory, what to do. They didn't pay too much attention to the elections, proper. But preparations, okay, look at it here. Let me just remove the ambiguities in the law. Establish a publicly accountable selection process for INEC members. That is what you would do. Indeed. Before the elections. It has nothing to do with elections proper.
Like pre-election.
Number 3 is ensure real-time publications of the aspects to election results. Advisory too. Then provide greater protection for the media practitioners. 5, discrimination against women in political life. Impunities regarding electoral offenses. These are the issues.
Well, how can you, based on that, all of that, now declare the elections in Nigeria unfair? And INEC has, risen up and categorically rebutted
177,000 polling booths. There were just about 110 members. 110 number to supervise elections in 177,000 polling booths. So where were they? So where did they go to?
So you begin to wonder about the
how did they
or the conclusion of the findings.
Like that the last speaker said, it's just to show that they have done something and they go for more funds. You don't sit in a place, you come to a place like Lagos or Abuja, and you feel that you have traversed the whole political landscape. I said 177,000 polling booths. Were you there? So it has nothing to do with the elections. What they are saying here is that, just things that you do before the election. So I was somebody here this morning. They said, look, that these are just pre-election matters. That's what they put here. They think they are telling us what to do, include more women, protect the press, and some other things they said, 6 of them.
But
so it cannot in any way circumvent what is saying. We are talking about election, where our principal lost Lagos. Lagos is built. Thousands of people.
Did that get a mention? I don't recall seeing that as a mention.
No, it was.
Did that get a mention?
No, I didn't see that. I didn't see that. But you just don't sit down somewhere and begin to craft something just to satisfy your sponsors and all that. Be fair.
Yeah, but
understand where we're coming from.
In fairness, Joe, when we're talking about the European Union, who would be their sponsors? I mean, isn't it that they would be sponsoring other people? Nee was speaking about the civil society segment and sector, and not wanting to, possibly annoy their sponsors.
That's what I'm saying too.
Okay.
You have to write something. But what I'm saying, did you traverse the 177,000 polling booths
to get a real feel?
To get a result. Okay, give us time frame for publication of results. Yes, the system can go wrong. There were hackers in the system, and we know they've been having meetings. These elections they prepared, especially the main opposition PDP. They were in Dubai throughout, the center of hackers. So they were waiting. That one was not supposed to be on the ballot because power is on to the south. This is an election where, we had 21 governors. And 5 governors left them. Atiku is PDP. P2B is PDP. Then Kwankwaso came with NNPP.
No, but Peter Obi is not PDP.
He was PDP.
Where
He was PDP.
You could have said
He was PDP before he. They're all PDP members before he went to LP. So you can see three of them fighting, and Ababa took victory and ran away with victory. So, so many things played out.
Okay.
How can you dissect the fact that Asiwaju lost Lagos and the president lost Katsina? Our national chairman lost Nasarawa. Our campaign DG lost Plateau. How can you? And you think that what went wrong? Nobody is talking about it.
Indeed, nobody
is talking about it.
Now, Nee, to come back to you, in the past, 30 days, so much has happened in the presidency. President Tinubu, he's even gone abroad into meeting with. I wanted to ask what you think of the responsibility or otherwise of a foreign body like EU making this kind of an announcement. And of course, it's not just us, but it also goes all over the world, trying to stigmatize the election as unfair, even if that was not the intention. If they can, it is possible that they might say that was not the objective. Yeah, but what do you think of that whole matter about, just that, putting this report out before the entire world? How responsible was that?
It is quite unfortunate. Even before we get to the world, the matter of the election outcomes had been in the court now, the
Indeed.
Presidential election.
Indeed.
Then you also don't expect this kind of report to be issued and to be circulated at this point in time, because the principal matter, it's subject to adjudication by the appropriate constitutionally constituted body. That is one. Of course, it has caused a distraction. All the parties to the matter are now issuing statements. And this matter is supposed to be subjudiced, in fact and indeed. And you have a body that is supposed to be as a responsible organ as the EU election monitoring organ, and it's an organ of the European Union Commission. The European Union Commission itself is a global respected body that is supposed to be a protector of the rule of law. And this kind of intervention is actually disruptive of the processes of the rule of law. That is one. Then two, when a president had been sworn in, and of course, because of the processes, the nature of the processes of our election in Nigeria, the president continues, whoever is sworn in is seen to be the de facto occupier of that office. And until the court says or proves otherwise, that office should be respected. The EU, as a commission, as a body of sovereign, it's supposed to understand the context of that relationship, either at the level of diplomacy or even at the level of good relationship, between Nigeria and EU and its member countries. So when you issue this kind of sweeping generalization of a sensitive issue, such, I believe that Nigeria should actually question the EU Commission, by way of getting to understand what exactly the motives may be at this point in time. Because if they had come out, like I said, with empirical data, evidence-driven positions, perhaps I wouldn't have been bothered. But I took time to read that report 3 times over the last 3 days. And my position is, where exactly are the data to support the generalization of a failed election process? Even the advisory, so-called, now talk of the election. In fact, in that report, it says that on March 1, when the election results were declared, there was no violence. The report also says that on the election day, February 25th, there was no violence. And the indication of violence were only recorded during campaign periods when 110 incidences or thereabouts were recorded. Now, understanding the sensitivity of Nigerians, it is the election day that concerns us. And whatever position you are going to take, you are supposed to make it as clear as possible as a responsible organ of government at the global level.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Mr. George in Ikeja, good morning.
Good morning to Joe and the other guests.
Okay.
Uncle Yori, I read the report yesterday, and the simple summary that came to my mind is that EU went beyond their bounds by questioning our laws guiding elections. To observe is not to make laws for us. We are capable of making laws as is consistent with what prevails in our country. They are not the ones who tell us this is what our electoral laws should be. If you have come to observe, you only need to check whether the laws in place fall in line with the practice you are seeing at the election. They are not the ones to tell us how the laws should have been. That is basic. You see, Uncle Yori, what I see in all these things is, I can just summarize it as jealousy and envy. The European Union, this election was conducted in February, and in July, you are bringing out a report to discredit it. Where were you in those 5 months? It's because they saw that the president we have is not the type they can constrict into their basket. For people to be looting our money into their country, they will be condemning us as thieves. Yet they are using our money to improve their own economy. If we want the money to be returned, they will not give us. They are saying that we are trying, the situation is about to change. And they cannot hold this one and put him in their pocket. That's simply what the European Union is using this report to do. And we are not going to allow it.
All right, then.
The Commonwealth Group, Uncle Yori, the Commonwealth Group, led by Thabo Mbeki, came and observed this same election. African Union Group came, observed this election. I remember Thabo Mbeki went to the president before he left, and he passed a vote of confidence in the system. That's Commonwealth.
Indeed.
African Union, the same thing.
Thank you very much, Mr. George. Appreciate your
I
call.
won't take it.
All right, then. Thank you very much. And as Nee said earlier, the sensitivity or otherwise of the EU, first of all, this report, this final report that has been roundly condemned by the federal government and INEC and Mr. President, they determined, as Nee had said, that this, when it is still, people who have grievances are still in court, the matter is going on, full tilt there, that is the time that you put this report. Is that an impartial report? But that is the time you decide that, this might be a good time to just drop this on the ground.
Well, to me, as a politician of many years standing in Lagos and Nigeria, it's just a report. It cannot change anything.
I wonder if they knew that.
It cannot change anything. Nigeria is a sovereign nation.
Indeed.
Let me shock you. From 1964 to 19, we talked about electoral offenders, or probably for violence, 1964 to 1965, you have 200 deaths after elections. Then 1993, 100. 1999, 80. 2003, 100. 2007, 300. 2011, 800. 2015, 100. 2019, 150. And this 2023 to 2023 is just 28. Nobody need to die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nobody need to die, but you cannot be everywhere at the same time.
Exactly. And
police officers cannot be in every space in Nigeria at the same time. We don't want anybody to die. You don't need to die. Where I've been voting in Lagos for close to 20-something years now, it's always fun. Fun. We go there, we eat, we drink, and we vote. We hug ourselves and we go. Nobody needs to die. But
But as you know, the narrative of the opposition is entirely different.
And losers will always complain.
Yes.
We see it.
Yes.
Even when you know that you did not win this election, you will still be talking. Some people are still waiting for a result to come. People that have not built one single structure in any state just came and ran on the back of religious sentiments, and you got us well. They got some votes. That's where it will end.
Let me take this.
Go for that. You have to go and build your structures.
Okay.
You know.
Let me take this call. Mazi Okorafor, good morning to you, sir, and thank you for holding on.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, our guest, Oscar. Yeah. You see, election. What I would suggest, or what I would say to my own point of view, as a Nigerian, as a two Nigerians, let us wait for the judiciary to come out with their own, because every day there are some reports you carry down and that people will hear. It makes people keep them on high pedestrians, which is not healthy for our country. Coupled with all this issue of subsidy or no subsidy, palliative or no palliative, my own is that Nigerians, let's wait for the judiciary to come out with their final verdict. Good morning, Mazi Okorafor from Aonuchukwu. Good morning, sir. You our guest.
Indeed, thank you very much, Mazi. Yeah, because that seems to be a logical position considering the EU, the European Union, which represents countries in Europe, and they pride themselves on, democracy and the law and developed judicial systems. That would have been perhaps what somebody would have thought is the logical, way. Say, wait, let's see what the system says. There are people protesting it. President Tinubu had said some time ago that, he supports the right of anybody to go to court and exercise the right of dissent, and it will be adjudicated upon. So, but that they didn't wait to see what our judicial system would make of all of this. Instead, they come out with their own decision judgment that is binding on nobody, but nevertheless still has its influence. That's the part that's surprising me.
It's quite surprising. And I think it's not exactly, I don't want to use the word irresponsible, on the European Commission or the European Union as an entity. Because I know that body has a long, distinguished history in terms of processes, in terms of understanding the rule of law, and of course, in terms of diplomatic engagement. So when you are relating with a sovereign body, and Nigeria is a sovereign body, that issue is about a sovereign body. It's about a country that is appropriately constituted with constituted authority in government. And therefore, issuing that kind of statement is not exactly responsible, one. Then two, if you are going to issue a statement, then they issued an interim statement before the judicial process started. I think if they were responsible enough, what they should have done was to put together either final or interim and issue that, which would, of course, impact the processes going forward. Now, as part of the disruptive, indication of what they just issued now, that report was submitted as an exhibit at the PET, yesterday. It's disruptive because it is an afterthought. It's something that was issued much more, days after the judicial process has started. And it's only logical to say that on whose side, is the EU. Is the EU on the side of Nigeria? Is the EU on the side of opposition parties? Indeed. Is the EU on the side of the CSO? And of course, all of those of us that have been active at the level of the CSOs understand the fact that the CSOs in Nigeria are not exactly objective-minded entities as a collective. There are people who are there just for mercantile reasons, just for profit venture reasons. And as far as they are concerned, whatever brings peace in Nigeria reduces their income, And to that extent, we may also ask the European Union, what changed? What are the values that are in that report that changed between the time they issued the interim report and now that they have the final report?
Indeed.
What new information, were so important that have been added, to the interim report that was different from the major thread in the interim report that they now issued it at this time when the judicial process had been on.
Indeed. Okay. James in Ketu has called in, Ketu, Lagos. Good morning to you, sir. Did we lose James yet? Mr. James in Ketu, Lagos. Well, Ni has, sort of, spoken on that quite well because it would have been sub judice ordinarily when you look at it. And considering their credentials, the whole European society, and the union, that is speaking for them, and that this has happened, it just begins to make you wonder. However, they've done it, and we've heard it, and I don't know if that is what they want, because they would have expected that it would be categorically denied and rejected, as has been done summarily. And not only that, Dele Alaki, presidential advisor's earlier statement had sort of given some sort of an indication as to, one is not too surprised about this. It didn't quite use those words, but the way you write carefully, when there was the impression that we knew the way, because if it, how do they say it? They say if it walks like a duck, it does something else like a duck, you can then begin to conclude that, it looks like a duck. It is a duck. So I don't know what we ever did to anybody for them to throw this kind of caution, because after all, the Europeans, they are icons when it comes to matters of decorum and all of that. But they've decided to go this way. We have received it, and we are looking at it. There you go. That's the presidential, this presidential person, Dele Alaki, and his statement. Yes. He said we just need to be more objective than all of this. Okay, tell you what, we'll go on a break. Ni Akishiju, we'll just take a quick break now. Don't go anywhere, please. We'll be right back, and we'll continue with this conversation.